All right, welcome back to DIY dog training. Today, what we're doing is we're talking about what actually happens when we prepare for the hunt test. Now, hunt testing is designed to be a simulated duck hunt. And obviously, when you do this, there's some things we have to do to simulate as best we can, but we also have to understand that we have to make it consistent for a lot of dogs to run the same test. The purpose of hunt testing is to give us a way to showcase our dogs that they have reached a proficiency at a level. It's important to note that a hunt test means that the dog is being graded against the standard, meaning that if 50 dogs run a hunt test, all 50 of them could pass or all 50 of them could fail, depending on whether or not they meet the standard of that particular test. Now, there are generally two different venues that primarily run waterfowl hunt tests. That is the American Kennel Club and the Hunting Retriever Club, which we call AKC and HRC. Now, AKC has their own test, their own setup, it's their own entity. The Hunting Retriever Club has their own test and their own group, but their registry goes to the United Kennel Club. So there's a little confusion there sometimes. AKC does their own registry and their own test. HRC does their own test, but their registry is to the United Kennel Club. We'd like to do both venues. Now, what we've been preparing with Aries throughout this whole time is to prepare him for the first level of each of these tests. Now, the AKC test and the HRC test at the first level are very similar. In fact, at each of the three levels of those tests, they are all very similar. So the AKC first level goes junior, then senior, then master. At the HRC test, we call them started, seasoned, and finished. In general, HRC tests are slightly easier than AKC tests. Now, obviously, there's a great deal of variation. Sometimes you'll see an AKC test that's not as severe, and sometimes you'll see an HRC test that is more complicated. But in general, they are very, very similar to each other. Very similar, right? So I want to explain this real quick because there's a lot of confusion about how these tests work. Okay, most people generally work to earn a title. A title is earned for the HRC started or the AKC junior by getting 4 passes. A pass means that in one day, the dog completed 2 series. A series happens like we have here on land, and a series happens on water. In a little bit, we're going to shoot our water series, right? So the land series will consist of 2 marks, like we have out here, where we have relatively short cover. You can see Aries and my throwers out here in short distances. Usually at a test, they would be behind a blind so that they would be completely hidden. And we would have a mat usually or a bucket to sit on for an HRC test. At an AKC test, we never sit on a bucket. They're virtually always standing. All right. But the idea is we're going to do 2 single marked retrieves for the land series. That means one bird's going to come out and we're going to go get that duck. We're going to come back. The next bird's going to come out and we're going to go get that. That is 2 singles. All right. So land series is 2 singles. Water series is 2 singles. If the dog picks up all 4 of those ducks in one day, that is a pass. And that pass, we get 4 passes to earn a title. All right. So in both venues, you can do 4 passes to get that title and 4 passes in the other venue. They do not count towards each other. You can't get, 8 passes in one to they're totally separate. You can't do that. So you do 4 passes in HRC, 4 passes in AKC, you can get both titles. That is what we are working towards with Aries at this time. All right. So let's go ahead and have a look at the 2 landmarks here, and we'll get a good idea of what we're looking at here. All right, Aries, here. Oh, we need a duck call. If we're doing this as an HRC set of marks, then we always start the test by blowing a duck call. I should also clarify that if you are doing this at an HRC test, you must be dressed in full camo. Hat, shirt, pants must all be camo. You can wear shirts, you can wear a skirt, but they must be camo. So we're going to do this mark over here on the left first, and then we're going to do the mark on the right. Notice that these are reasonably spread apart, and they're about 50 or 60 yards in light cover, right? So when we do this, we start the test for HRC with a duck call. I'm going to blow my duck call, and then in the field, we're going to have a duck call, and then when that bird is in the air, the bird will be shot by my gunner right here beside us. So this is HRC started style for this. And at started level, you are allowed to hold the dog's collar to steady them. Aries. In HRC, you are allowed to send the dog as soon as the duck hits the ground. Good boy, here. So you can hold the dog steady until the duck hits the ground. Now, in the AKC world, it is slightly different. Heel, sit, give. In the AKC world, we would see actually, Brinley, go out there to Griffin. Walk out there. I'll explain this a little bit differently while she's walking out there. When we are doing this AKC style, the gunfire is no longer done at the line, but instead the gunfire will happen out in the field. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do this mark AKC style, I guess. I should also clarify that when we do HRC started, the dog must deliver the bird to the area, which generally means from where you are allowed one step to bend down and pick up the duck. So if the duck is here, you know, that's fine in HRC started. In AKC Junior, the dog must deliver the bird to hand. Okay. Also in Junior, we do not start with a duck call. We start by simply waving to signify that we are ready. When I wave that I'm ready, we will have the duck call in the field, the bird will be shot, and the dog will retreat. Aries. Should also clarify that at an AKC test, he's got to do a little hunting here, which is good. It's just fine. Dog can hunt the area. They can, there's no time limit. So what he did there is he got downwind of the bird and found his bird. Came back to it. Good. I should also emphasize that at an AKC test, one of the other differences here, come on, here, is that at an AKC test, they can shoot a live flyer, which means that they may throw an actual live duck and shoot it on site. In that case, they will usually have a couple of gunners that will be shooting the bird to make sure that it is killed dead as it lands. All right, so this gives you a quick look at what we're looking at for the land series for HRC started and AKC junior. Let's go take a look at the watermarks. Okay, so we're prepping for our hunt test here on our DIY dog training part 5. We're now looking at our water series. Today what we're going to do, we've got a water series that's kind of a hybrid between AKC and HRC. This is where there's, hey, here, stay here. There's one major difference in HRC and AKC on the water. All right, so the first mark we're going to do is going to be right over here. My throwers are going to throw this bird. It's going to splash in the water. When you do an HRC started test, the bird is required to land in the water. Lots of times you'll get a nice big splash. So the bird will always land in the water. Now, at an AKC junior test, one of the things that really makes it more challenging is my second mark is going to be about 30 yards up out of the water. So this is what we call a reentry mark, meaning the dog is going to have to swim across the water, get back onto land to get up there to find that bird, and then re-enter to come back. That is a far more challenging concept. So it's one of the things that sorts out the difference. It is a skill the dog needs to learn before they do junior if they know HRC started. So I'm going to do, based on the layout of how many people I have to help me today, we're going to do these as gunfire is going to happen in the field. So that, again, remember, is junior style. The gunfire happens in the field, or the AKC junior is gunfire in the field. Normally, if we were doing this HRC style, I would be sitting on a bucket and shooting. The same rules for delivery to hand apply. The dog must deliver the bird to hand. And I can tell you in water, on the water test at an AKC junior, that is a common fail point. To see a dog get out of the water, shake, drop the bird, and not pick it up and bring it to you. So there's a lot of things that happen in the water. There's a lot of mechanics that we have to make sure that we have. Now, fortunately, Aries, if you've watched all of this video series, you know he has those tools so we can make those things work. So we're going to start by doing our splash bird over here on the left. And I'm going to wave my hand to say that I am ready for them to throw that bird. Again, you can steady the dog by holding the collar. Even though if you've seen our videos, you know that Aries will stand here nice and pretty. So blow your duck call and throw, please. Aries! Now, my throwers there gave me a really half-hearted throw. Normally, the bird would go up high and have a nice big splash, but that's an example. The bird did land in the water. Now, one of the things that's a common thing we ask is, what about on the return? What if he runs the long way around the pond on the way back? They do not judge the dog on the return. Good boy, here. So even if the dog runs around the bank on the way back, that is not graded at the test, and you are not, scored against you. So long as he comes up here and delivers this bird to hand nicely, heel, sit. Yeah, good boy. That's what we're looking for. Oh, by the way, I'm holding a two-way radio so I can communicate with my throwers better. He is not wearing any kind of a collar or an e-collar. Now, leave it. Heel. Sit. Griffin, stay put, please. Griffin, stay put, please. It's important when we're at a test that we have our handlers are not moving, because motion drastically impacts the dogs. Truett, please remember you're making your duck throw towards the sun. All right, let's do this. Heel. Aries! Now, this particular pond is one that I like to train on because we have a nice big hill up here. That's a common thing that they like to see at AKC test. Run up the hill, charge up the hill. It takes a lot. We say it takes a lot of dog. Good boy. It takes a lot of effort, a lot of drive to charge all the way up there. So that's one of the things that they commonly test for. Right. Now, Aries has obviously been doing a lot of these drills for a while, so he looks pretty good at it. But this should give you a pretty good idea here. Heel, sit. Yeah, good dog. Of what goes on at a test. Now, at an AKC test, if your dog drops the duck, that is okay. Don't panic. Right? At an AKC test, he picked up the other duck. Don't do that. No. At an AKC test, we simply tell him fetch. Hey, fetch, fetch, fetch. Heel, sit. Yeah. And that is perfectly acceptable to simply tell the dog to fetch. At an HRC test, if the dog drops the duck right there at your feet, I always recommend just pick it up, right? Because as soon as you pick it up, then the test is complete. You get the dog back on lead and you are done. All right. So this gives you an idea of what the land and the water looks like. I always recommend, if this is going to be your first time running a dog at a test, go and watch, because there's a lot that happens that you can get. You can see how people are running their dogs. What are they doing? Are they positioning themselves differently here to aim the dog? There's a lot of little tips and tricks that you can find by going to watch, and it makes a lot more sense after you've seen some running. It's also a great idea that to remember that all of these tests are put on by a local hunt club or retriever club, and those retriever clubs are always looking for new members, new people with new dogs to come and run their dogs and be part of the sport. That's how we grow the sport. And absolutely, if you've got young ones that can run a dog, we love to see kids get involved and help preserve the future of our sport, for years to come. And of course, one of the things that I have to caution you about this for hunt testing is this is horribly addictive, because this is only the first level. There are two other levels that get exponentially more complicated with the tasks that they are asked to do. And so it's really great to run your dog at the entry level, have some success, go watch those more challenging tests, because then you can be like, oh, okay, well, I see the next thing I need to do. I need to work on this. I need to work on that. I need to teach my dog how to do this. And it's a great way to develop the relationship with your dog, and you're going to have a dog that is, better trained, a better relationship, and it's a great group of people to be with. Every hunt test I've been to, it seems like every person you meet would tell you every training tip they know, to give you the shirt off their back. I mean, just great, salt of the earth type people are usually who you find at a hunt test. It's a great way to spend a weekend. I should also clarify one final thing here is that hunt tests are largely determined by the weather and the hunting season. So usually we have here in Kansas where I am, we have tests in the spring and we have tests in the fall. Obviously in the summer it's too hot to be doing a lot of dog work. We don't want to be doing this in July, and in we don't want to do it in December because we have real ducks to hunt. Nobody wants to do a test when it's the actual hunting season. So we usually do tests like April and May in the spring, and then we do like September and October. It does vary a little bit. Like if you're in the farther south, like in Texas, they may start like late February and into March. And if you're very far up north, up in the Dakotas or Minnesota, you might see these tests go all the way into July, June and July, because it's still, quite pleasant, in that location. So there is some geography and some weather concerns to be had. But anyway, this gives you a good look at what it looks like to have your dog run in a hunt test. Hopefully you get to this spot, and we'll see you at a test soon. Thanks for watching.